Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. In this video, we are going to create a simple to-do app with the help of the Laravel framework. So we have created the to-do app using various platforms in this series. We have created it using pure JavaScript, and we have also created it using Firebase database, and we have also used PHP MySQL to create the to-do app. Now today we are going to do the same thing, same app, but with the help of Laravel framework. Okay, so let's begin. So first of all, let's go to our project directory. So I'm using Laragon to host our Laravel application, and I will start git bash over here into this folder, and I have already installed the Laravel installer. You can go to the Laravel documentation and see how to install it. So you need to have Composer installed on your computer. Once that is done, then you will have a command which will be Laravel new and the name of the project. Okay, so the name of the project I am thinking of Lara to do. Okay, so I'm going to name it as Lara to do. Press enter and just wait for it to install the application. Now till that time, I will just open up my UI for the to-do app that I've already created. Let me go to my repository. Okay, so our application has installed completely, and you can see the installer has given me this message. That means our application is ready to use. So I will close this, and now I will open my folder where it is. So you can see this is the folder which is having the Laravel, the fresh Laravel installation. Just right click and open with code, and this is the project. Okay, so first of all, let me go to my Laragon server and restart it so that the new folder is recognized. And that's it. So now my application must be visible. Let me just open the page Lara. Perfect. Okay, so I have my fresh Laravel installation. I'm using Laravel 8.15. Okay, so now this is done. Now I also have downloaded the source of the UI that I'm going to use for the to-do app. I will put this link in the description. So let me show you. Let me extract. And this is the file. These are the files. So you can see this is the to-do app, a simple UI. So it has a table with the to-do entries, and there are few buttons on top which are responsible for their respective actions. Okay, so let's start building the app. Now before that, we will have to set up the app to use this UI, right? So first let's set up the UI, and then we will work on the other parts. So let's begin. Let's copy the entire code that is present inside the UI that we have downloaded into the Lara to do public folder. Okay, so let me paste it over here. Okay, now I don't want the index.html, add and edit to do. So I don't want these three files to be there. I will delete them, and then I will come back. So I only needed the CSS folder and the images folder. Okay, so these two things I needed. Next, I will go to my resources, views, and here I'm going to put our website UI. Okay, so let's open that folder in our Visual Studio Code. There is a file now right now which is called welcome.blade. That is the actual file that is getting loaded right now. Okay, so this page is this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new let's call it as app.blade.php. okay, so this is going to be our um, theme page, we can say. Okay, so this is going to be our main theme. So let's go to our index.html and open it with some other editor and just copy the entire code, and we will paste it inside our app.blade.php. okay, so I'm just taking everything from there, the index.html, and pasting it over here. Okay, now a few things that we have to handle is the CDNs are fine. CDNs and the fonts are coming from their respective URLs. But if you look at the style sheet, it is looking inside a folder in the current directory, that is CSS and main.css. So I can just remove this, and this will be our CSS. Okay, so let's save it, and now let's see if this works. So let's go to routes and web.php. So this is where that particular view is getting loaded, right? So right now it is loading welcome.blade.php, but I want to load app, so I will just replace this by app. Okay, and let's see whether it works. Perfect. So now we have successfully used our UI that we have made. Okay, so once this is done, now we are ready to create a template out of this, right? So let's start by making the template. Now first things that I would like to do is I'm going to use this as the template, right? So for that I have to identify which all things are going to remain the same, right? So this particular container, let me show you what all things are there in the other files. Okay, so let me open this also in Notepad++, and you can see there is a container here also, and there is a form, right? So this form will change for the different pages, right? But there is this container which is making everything centered, right? So that means you can see that only the remaining entire part in this page is going to remain fixed. Only the center part, that is this part, is going to change. So what I'm going to do is, to make this as a template, I'm going to take this form out of here. Okay, I'm going to replace this with an yield. Okay, so I'm going to use blade syntax to make this. Okay, so I'm going to add @yield and content. Now advantage of this is, whenever I want, now I can change the content part whenever I extend from this particular theme. Okay, so that is done. Now this is now going to be my theme. So now let's create another file. Let's call it index.blade.php. okay, so this is going to be my each one of my pages will be having different names. So here I'm going to do extends, okay, and extends app. So it is going to extend the app template. Okay, so now the advantage of this is, now I don't have to rewrite the entire HTML. I just have to write what content should go inside this particular area. Okay, so now let's see how to do that. So I will write B section, and here I will say content. Okay, and whatever I type between these elements, let's say I type here hello. Okay, so whatever I type in between this will now be replaced over here. Okay, so let me show you how it is done. So I will, instead of rendering the app, now I will render index. Okay, because that is the name of our view. Okay, so let's save it and let's come over here, press refresh. You can see I get hello. Right now, instead of hello, I will replace this hello with the HTML that I removed from the last page. So this was it, and if I save it now, if I refresh, you can see I get the original data back. Right, so now the advantage of doing this is now I have a theme ready. So now if I want to make another page, let's say let's create another page, add to do dot blade.php. So if this is the next page that I want to add, now I don't have to have this entire code again. So I just have to change the content part. Right, so what I will do is, first of all, I will do extends, and extends, I want to extend the app template. Right, and here I want to do section. Okay, and here I will say content, and the content will change. Okay, now if anybody is wondering why how I'm getting these commands autocomplete, so that is because I have installed an extension. Let me show you that extension. So I will come over here and let's do Laravel, and you can see I have installed this Laravel blade snippets. Okay, so this extension is installed, and I've also installed Laravel snippets. Okay, so these are the few things because of which all this is this autocomplete feature is running. Okay, so now if once I have the content part, now I can go to my add to do file, and I can say I can copy this form here and paste it over here. Right, so that will give me the add to do. So let's go over here and let's duplicate this, and let's say add. Okay, we call it add, and let's call add to do. Okay, and let's see if that works. So add, and that also works. Perfect. So now similarly, I would also like to make the edit to do. When the time comes, we will make that also. Right, so that will be easy. It will be just a replication of this and changing the content from here. That's it. Okay, so once this much is done, now we are ready. So our view part is done. Now let's handle the controller part. Okay, now you can do this many ways. The way I am going to do it is let's open the console first. Okay, and let's run the command php artisan. Okay, so that will give me all the commands that are available to make various things. Okay, so now now here what all things I want to do. Okay, so first of all, whenever you want to make any database queries, so the first thing you should do is create a migration. Right, now the migration will help you in creating the table that you want to use in your project. And second thing that you would like to do is create a model for it. Now you could use database queries, or you can use Eloquent ORM that is provided by Laravel. I prefer to use Eloquent, so I will show you that method. And finally, we will also use a controller to handle or basically connect the view with the model. Okay, so let's begin. So here you can see I have separate commands for each of them. So you have a make controller command, which will help you in creating the controller. Then you have a make model command, which will help you in creating a model. Then there is a make migration command, which will help you in creating a migration, right? So now you can run all these commands separately, or you can run one single command and everything will be created for you. Let me show you how. So let's run php artisan. Okay, so make model. Okay, so if I do a help over here, let's see what all things are there, right? So if I do, you can see this particular function is used to create an eloquent model class, right? Now what all things it requires? So it requires a name, so that is the model name, and it also it has some few features that you can set. So first of all, you have -m. Okay, so if you pass -m, it will also create a migration for it. Okay, then if you want to have a controller created, then you can have you can pass -c, that will create a controller. If you want to have a seed, if you want to have a factory, so everything for each and everything there is a flag, right? But if you want to create all the things at once, you can pass a -a flag, which will generate a migration, a seeder, a factory, a resource controller, everything for the model. Okay, so I usually use this method if I don't want to create each of them separately. You can create it one by one manually also, but it is completely up to you. If you want to save some time, you can use directly -a and the name of the model. Okay, so I am going to make a to do, so the model name is also to do. Okay, so let's press enter and just wait for it. So here it is saying the model created successfully, factory created successfully, migrations created, seeder created, and controller created. We will see one by one each of them. So let's go to the database and go to migrations, and you can see already there were 3 migrations. So there is a users table migration, then there is password resets table, then fails job table. So these 3 are already there in a blank Laravel installation, but this is what we have created right now. So let's open it. Let's close the console, and you can see inside the migration. So now what is migration? So migration is basically instead of creating your database by going to a database editor, you can create your structure of your database through migrations file. So basically you have an up function and a down function. So whenever you do a migration, so this up function is run, and whatever is mentioned in the up function, that will be executed. And whenever you do a rollback, so the down function is run. So basically whatever you do over here in the up, the opposite of that should be done over here. Okay, so now what is the advantage of using migrations? So now usually when we work on big projects, whenever we want to share it with or collaborate it with other people, we have to share the SQL file again and again. Whenever the project or the database structure changes, we have to share the SQL file with your teammates. Then they will have to import that, or you may have to provide them with the query. Instead of this, what Laravel does is it creates the entire table structure inside these migrations. So every database tables are there inside this migration. So whenever you change your code or you change the database structure, basically these files change, and these will be directly committed to your Git repository, right? So whenever your teammate pulls the changes, he will also get these files, and he can just migrate, and he will get the database structure updated. So that is the basic idea of using migrations. So now let's see how to create create migrations. So if you remember, I have installed an extension for Laravel called Laravel snippets. Okay, so I'm going to use that to create the fields. So by default in migrations, you can see it has already given the name of the table, that is going to be to dos, right? And it has created two entries. One is the ID, which is going to be a primary key auto increment ID, and the second is this is timestamps, that is it is going to create two fields called created at and updated at. Okay, so these two fields are automatically added, so it will be there in all the tables. If you want, you can remove it, that is completely your choice, but I prefer to use them. Then now you can decide what all things you need for your to-dos app, right? So in here we only need two things for the time being, because there is no authentication right now. So I just need a title and a status, that's it. Okay, so let's do that. So for that I will use okay, so you can see as soon as I type column, so colum, you can see all these different types that are coming in, right? So I want to have a string, right? So I will go down and let's see, do I have something called string? Yes, so I can do a string or a text, right? So let's do a string. So you can see it populates the entire command for us. So I can say to do title, so this is going to be my name and this is going to be my size. So let's say 250. So basically string is simply a varchar field, right? So this will come out to be a varchar with the name of title and a size of 250. Okay, and by this I am just saying that the text can be nullable. Okay, and the default I am setting it to be, so I can, if I don't want to set any default value, so I can remove this completely. Okay, then next thing that I want is a boolean. So let's, so you can see I have a field called boolean. So you can see this is the table, and if you want you can have a boolean or a string again. Okay, so I'm using boolean, and this is boolean with the name, let's call it status. Okay, so status means if it is true, this particular field is true, means the particular task is complete. If it is false, means the particular task is pending. Okay, then this is nullable, and default value is false. Okay, so default it will be pending, and I think that is it. So I have created my first migration. Now the next step is to run this migration. So let's see how to run this migration. Now to run this migration I will have to do php artisan migrate. Okay, so this is the command, but before running this we have to set up the database connection properties. Okay, so for that what we have to do is, you can see there is an .env file. So this is where we are going to set up our database connection properties. So let's open it, and you can see here there are few fields are there, and it has already populated it properly. So the database name it has taken automatically as Lara to do, so that is our name of the app also, and the username is root and the password is blank. Perfect. So I just have to create this database now. So let's go to our database editor, and let's create a new database, and let's call it Lara to do. Okay, and let's select okay, so I'm selecting this UTF-8 general CI as the collation. Click OK. So I have my Lara to do database ready. And if I open that right now, there is nothing. Okay, so let's come back to our migrations and let's press enter and see what happens. Okay, let's run the migration, and if everything goes well, this should migrate. But there is some error. So now this error is coming because my Laragon, let me show you. So the version of the MySQL that I'm using is very old. Okay, so that's why this error is coming. So the error basically is that the character set UTF-8 MB4 is not recognized, right? So I can change it. I can just go to config, I can go to database, and you can come down and you can see it is written over here char set and collation. So you can just remove this MB4 from both the places, and you can see this is what I had selected there also, right? Now this is one option, or another option is just update your MySQL. Okay, so you just download another setup of MySQL from their website and put it inside Laragon bin folder, and that and change the version from here. You can just go over here and select the different version. That's it. Okay, so that is also another option, but rather than changing the version, I have just did a small change in the config file, and I think that should work. So let's check the database again. There is nothing, right? So let's run the migration one more time. Perfect. So now it has run. So it is saying it has migrated all these tables, and it also shows how much time it took. Now if I do a quick refresh, you can see all the different tables it has created. So there is a users table, there is this to-dos table, that is what we have created right now, and there are few other tables that you especially this migrations table you should not touch because that is an internal table. Then if I open the to-dos, you can see our field, right? So title is a varchar of size 250, then status is boolean. Okay, so all this perfect, and it has created two fields, created and updated it. Okay, now once this is done, now let's come back, can close the environment file, so and the migrations file. So our migrations part is done. So now what next? So next is you can see now when we created the so when we created the model to do, it had created a model, a factory, a migration, a seeder and a controller, right? So we will go to the controller and the model a little later, but first let us see what is a factory and what is a seeder. Okay, so in the database folder itself you can see factories and seeders, right? So let's go to factories first, and you can see already there is a factory called user factory because there was a table called user, so that's why a user factory is already there. So let's open it and see what is it. Okay, so you can see exactly what is happening over here. So basically what a factory is whenever we are developing any particular application, so we want some dummy data to work with, right? Now this factory, this seeder, basically the seeders are used to seed the database tables, right? That means it is used to fill up the database with dummy data, okay, or some kind of a data. But this seeders, if you want to put some dummy data inside it, so the seeders can put actual data as well as dummy data. But if you want to put some dummy data, then before using that, you have to first set up the factories. And what are factories? Factories are just a way to tell Laravel that what are the fields that what type of a field you are going to replicate, or you are going to create. So you can see in case of user factory, so there were few fields like name, email ID, verified at, password and remember token. So email, so there is a library called faker that is used by Laravel, and this library gives you, every time it runs, it gives you fake data, right? That means if you say name, then it will give you fake name. Okay, so random fake names it will provide. Similarly, you can see this function. This function gives you unique emails, right? And then similarly you can see it is generating a hash for the password, etc. Okay, so that is absolutely fine. So similarly I have to create a factory for our to-dos. So you can see already my all the models and everything is set. So all you have to do is just do something like this to get the factory running. Okay, so let's see. So our factory is going to be very simple. There are only two fields: title. So the title is going to be this dot faker, and let's say a paragraph. Okay, so a paragraph of one sentence, that's it. Okay, so it is um, the fields are the parameter is how many sentences do you want in the paragraph. So I just want one sentence. Then I have another field called status, which is going to be $this and faker, and I think there should be a random element. Okay, so I will select this, and inside this I will provide two elements, 0 and 1. Okay, because it's a boolean, right? So it will take either true or false. So it will take any one of these elements, 0 or 1, randomly in each each fake entry. Okay, so now I have created my factory. So now let's try to use it. Okay, now let me show you how to use it inside a seeder. Okay, so our factories are done. Now let's go to seeders. So seeders is where actually your factory is going to be run. Okay, so let me show you. Let's go to do seeder, and here you have to run the factory over here. Okay, so let me show you how you can run it. So first of all you have to select the model. Okay, so let me select the model. So this is the model, to do model, and inside that there is a command called factory. Okay, and you just have to set how many entries you want to create. So let's say I want to create 5 entries, right? And then you can run the command create to get those 5 entries. Okay, so this is going to be my run command. That's it. Okay, so again you can see as soon as I did this, so it already populated this. So that is because of another library that I have used, that is PHP IntelliFence, right? So that library you can install it from the extensions. Okay, so our seeder is ready, right? So let's now save it and try to run it. Okay, so let's go to database and see if there is any data. So right now there is no data, right? So now let's run the migrations. Sorry, not the migrations. Let's run the seed. So for the seed, the command is php artisan, and now obviously you don't have to remember all these things. You can just run the php artisan and it will give you all the commands. So you can see the command db seed, right? So this is the command which will run all the seeds. Okay, so let me show you now php artisan db seed, but doing this is not going to seed anything, but let me show you. So okay, so it says database seeding completed, but let's go and refresh. You can see nothing has happened. Okay, the reason is you have added the to do seeder, but in this is the file which is run whenever you run this command db seed. Okay, so inside that you will have to call that that particular seeder. Okay, now to call that seeder, it is going to be very simple. Okay, so basically now in this seeder you can already see there is a factory being called. Okay, so you can directly call the factory, or you can create seeders and then call the seeders over here. Okay, so if you want to do you don't want to create seeders separately, then you can just copy this line from here and put it inside here, and that will run the seeder. Okay, or else if you want to have a separate seeders for every table, then what you can do is as we have created a seeder, to do seeder, we just have to call this. Right now, for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this particular command, that is call, and here I'm going to just provide the array of classes. Okay, so let's give the to do seeder class. Okay, so I'm just going to run these classes and let's see whether everything works. And you can see there goes, so our seeding took place and it has called the seeder to do seeder. Okay, and it took around 7.45 milliseconds. So let us see now whether the data is populated, and you can see our to dos are generated. Right, perfect. So now I have some to dos, around 5 to dos, and 2 of them are marked complete and 3 of them are marked pending. So our random random element that we have selected, even that is working perfect. So now we have completed 3 things, that is we have seen how migrations work, how factories work, and how seeders work. Okay, so now once this is done, now we are ready to start making our app. Okay, so let's go to let's close everything out and let's go to our home page, or let's go to our app. So this was our app, right? So let's go back to our page, and now our database connection is done. But now these things that are coming, that is coming from the static page that we have designed, right? But we don't want that. What we want is we want it to come from the database, right? So let's see how to do that. So now here is where the app starts to build. Okay, so now we have to decide what all things how our routes are going to work, how the entire process is going to work. Okay, now here what we have done, you can see in the web.php file, which is basically our routes file, and here we have used functions to handle the route. Okay, so these are basically the routes. So this is the home page and this is the add to do page. Okay, now we have used functions to handle it. So but the problem with this is that when your app is a bigger app, then if you put all the logic inside the web.php, then this will become a very big file, right? And we don't want that. So what we are going to do is, instead of this, we are going to remove this from here. So let's if you remember, when we created the model, it also created a what do you say, a controller, right? So let's see where these two things are. So only two things are left, that is the model and the controller. So models goes inside this models folder. So you can see there is a to do model, and the controllers go inside the control http controllers folder. Okay, so you can see there is a to do controller folder. Okay, so let's open that, and you can see it has a few fields, because by default it gives you these fields when you create the controller as in the form of a resource. So these functions names are standard names that we select, but if you want to change it, you can change it. So let's begin with this. So first is the index. So here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this line from here and put it inside this. Okay, that's it, nothing too fancy. I'm just shifting the job of the web.php to do controller, that's it. Okay, so I've done that. Now I want to remove this function from here. Okay, so now the function is removed. Now I want to send whenever this root link is called, it should go to this controller and to this method. Okay, so that is what I want to do. So for that, it is very simple. Just pass an array, and inside that array you just pass the name of the controller. So to do controller and class. Okay, that's it. That will be my first parameter, that is the class to which you want to send it. So you can see, thanks to IntelliFence, the class is imported on the top. So if you want to know what is this use statements and what is this how this namespace is working, so I have a separate video to this. I will add that to the in the description. Now the first parameter is the class, that is the controller class, and the second parameter is the string of the name of the function. Okay, so you can see the method name over here is index, so I will just pass index over here, and that's it. Okay, so let me save it and let's refresh and see if everything works. You can see everything still works. That means now the route is handled by the controller and not the function, right? So the function is removed. Now similarly, I have to change the routes to all the other elements also. Okay, so let's see how to do it. So let me duplicate it and create one for add. Okay, so I will make a link to add, and here let me see what is the, so you can see there is a function called create, so I will use this. So it will go to the create function, right? And here let me save it and let's come over here, and instead of returning the index, here I will return the, let's see, what was the name of our view? It was add hyphen to do, right? So let's add hyphen to do. That's it. Okay, so now you can see if I go to add, it goes to that page. Perfect. Okay, so now everything till now is working. Now let me go to the resource called index.blade.php, right? Now here right now the add to do button, that is, let me go back. Okay, so this button currently is going to the HTML file called add-todo.html, but I don't want that. I want it to go to the link that we have created, that is this link. Okay, so for that you have to do simple thing. You just have to replace this, because this is a blade template. You can use this double curly braces to echo something out, right? And there is a function in Laravel called URL, and here you just have to provide which URL you want to go, right? So I've just provided with add, and let's now refresh the page and see what is the link. So you can see now the link is lara2do.test/add. Okay, perfect. So it is going to the function where it should be going, right? And let's now go to this particular page, that is add to do, and make the back button also working. So let's go to add to do.blade, and you can see in the back button the link is index.html. So we don't want that. We want it to be URL, and inside that root. Okay, let's refresh and check. Perfect. So now it goes back and forth. Perfect. Now let's handle the next part of the code, that is, now next I want to go to add to do, right? Okay, so before that let's make this working. Okay, so now what we want to do, let's go to index. Okay, and I want to show all the contents that is actually there in the database and not statically coded contents. Okay, so this is what I have put in the HTML file directly, right? But I don't want this. I want this to be generated from the class, okay, or sorry, from the database. So let's see how to do it, right? So let's go to the controller. So over here, before we return, before that, what we are going to do is get all the to-dos. Okay, so let's say to-dos is equal to, right, and we have a model called to-do, so that is going to help us. So to-do, and I'm just going to say all. Okay, because we are using eloquent to get the data, so you don't have to write any queries as such. So there are a lot of such commands that you can do, which can avoid writing long queries over here. So you can check out the Laravel documentation for all the various functions out there that you can do in eloquent, right? So I've got this, and let's see what is the data that we get. Okay, so let's do dd is for die and dump, and let's say to do's, and let's refresh. Okay, so when I do that, you can see I get an array of 5 elements, and inside that array I get all my to-dos, right? So let's do one thing. Once I do to do all, let's pass this to the view. Okay, right now the view doesn't have any knowledge of any variable called to-dos. So now our next job is to send this to-dos variable to the view so that the view can display it. Okay, so this is what separation of concern is. So you are separating the view, that is the UI part, from the business logic. Okay, so let's see how to do that. So to send that, you just have to add a comma, and you can send now inside an array any elements that you want. Okay, so first of all, you have to give a name to the variable that you're going to send. Okay, so this is the name that I'm going to send, and now you have to send the value that you're going to send. So the value is stored inside to-dos. Okay, so basically you can see I have for all the variables that you want to send, you have to send the name of the variable and the actual value of the variable. Okay, so if you have multiple variables that you want to send, you can just add a comma and then keep adding the variables. Okay, so you can add another variable and then some other variable, right? So this you can do for any number of variables. Okay, so now once I do this, now I have a variable called to-dos inside my index. Okay, so let's go to index, and now I have a variable called to-dos. So let's see how to handle that. Now to handle that, you can actually do a PHP for each or anything like that to run this entire code repeatedly. Okay, but if you don't want to do that, then in Blade, if you're using, because we are using Blade, we can use a simple command called for each, right? So this for each is basically a shorthand for the actual for each command of PHP. So it is just helping you to write a cleaner code inside with the help of Blade, right? Now here the only thing you have to pass is the collection, right? So the collection that you are sending from the controller is the name to-dos. So I will just send to-dos over here, and this is going to be looped for each and every item. All right, so this will be, let's call it to do. Okay, so for each to do's as a to do, right? So one for each to do, this particular, for one particular to do, the entire data will be stored inside this variable, and then you can use it inside this. Okay, so let's copy one of the TRs, let's remove it from here and paste it over here, right? And now we don't want all these TRs from here, except before deleting it, just remember that we will be putting a complete class on the TR, whichever is complete. Okay, so let's remove this and let's save it, and let's see what exactly. Okay, we have to remove the die and dump. Okay, we have already removed it. Let's refresh, and you can see I am running the for each loop 5 times, because in our database you can see we have 5 entries, but right now I am not getting the data, I am getting only the rows, right? So let's see how to show the data inside this. Okay, so let's come over here. Now obviously you can see the here the name is not changed, right? So to show that, you can simply use double curly braces. So whenever you want to echo something inside HTML, you just have to use double curly braces. Okay, so you do this and then you can do $to do. Okay, and I think let's no, I think it's object, right? So to do and the name is title. Okay, so let me confirm. Yeah, so it was the database name was the column name was title. Okay, so let's refresh, let's come to this and refresh. You can see we get the perfect all the data we are getting, right? And the status currently is everywhere pending, right? So let's handle that also. So that we can handle in multiple ways, but let's do another blade syntax. So there is another blade which is called be if else. Okay, so let's use that. So you can see it is basically giving you this, right? So I will just remove this from here, paste it over here and here, right? So now in this basically you are to put a condition over here, and if it is true it will say complete, and if it is false it will say pending, right? So what is that condition? It is basically to do to do status. Okay, so you can see to do status is a boolean, I think. Yeah, so to do status, and you are running that and you will be getting complete or not. Okay, so let's check it out, refresh, and you can see here I am getting complete, here I am getting complete, and remaining 3 are pending. Okay, now one more thing is left, that is the color. So let's the color of the row, right? If it is complete I should get a different color, right? So for that again I can come over here, and inside here I can do the same condition check. Okay, so I think let's do this. Okay, and I can check the condition. If it is true I will say, okay, here I can say class is equal to, so I will start the class and I will end the class over here. Okay, so let's end it over here. So in between here I'm going to I think I don't need the else statement because there is not going to be any else, and here I can simply say echo dollar wait, so I don't have to echo, I just have to say complete. Okay, and save, and let's try it once more. So now we have the UI part ready. Okay, so now let's move on to work on all the other things, that is these things that are there, right? So let's work on the first element, that is the add new to do, right? So let's click over here, and so that goes to the add new to do, so that we have already worked on. But let's go to that particular page, that is add new to do, and let's see how to handle this now. Okay, now we want an endpoint where this form will be posted and the database query must be done, right? So for that what you can do is you can just first of all you can set the method, so method to post, right? Now then you will need the endpoint, so the endpoint is going to be again an URL, and let's, now we have not yet decided a URL, so let's go to a web route and let's create a post request to add. Okay, so instead of a get request, now I'm going to do a post request to add. Okay, and here I am going to do, let's see what you can see there is a store command. So this I'm going to use to store the data that the user is going to send, right? So you can see there are two routes which looks same, but it is not. The method is different. Okay, so whenever I directly type add slash add, it goes to this particular route, and if I type if I submit the form, that is through post, it will go to this route. Okay, so now we have done this, right? So now we have to use the same URL slash add. So the URL is the same, but the method is different. Okay, so slash add, and it goes over there, right? So let's now see how to handle it. Okay, so let's come over here and I will show you how you can get the data from the user. Okay, now just to show you that it is still using pure PHP, so I'm going to show you a dd die and dump of $post. Okay, so let's see what do we get. So let's refresh. Okay, and let's type something and click on save. Now this is not going to work, but let me show you what is the error that we are going to get. Okay, so let's click on save, and you can see the error that we get is 419 page expired. Okay, now this is again one of the security features of Laravel, where you cannot submit a post form without a CSRF token. Okay, now for that there is a blade command for that, so you just have to do @CSRF. Okay, now if you save it, now if I refresh the form, now before I submit, I would like to show you what that command did. So if I open it, you can see it added this particular hidden element called token, and it has generated a token for us. So this field is going to be checked by Laravel so that there is no CSRF attack on our app. Okay, so that is it. Now let's type some data and press submit, and you can see we are getting our data back, right? So we are getting the to do as SD, SDF, whatever. Okay, so we have got that. Now let's see how to handle it. Okay, so now once we get this, now before handling it, we have used the $post method. Right now you can see there is a parameter passed called request. Okay, so $request. Now this is a very important parameter which gives you a lot of flexibility and security also. Okay, so now instead of using $post directly, you should rather use $request to get the data that is submitted. Let me show you. So let me dump request. Okay, and show you what is the output. So let's refresh, and you can see you get the a big data back, and there are lots of information about the request. So from where this request came, what is the method of the request, then a lot of different stuffs are there. But what we are interested in is the, let me see where it is. Yeah, so it is in request parameters, and you can see here I'm getting the parameters. Okay, now this is a much more better way of doing this. Let me show you now how to get the data from the request. So you just have to name it. Okay, so whatever is the name of the particular form. Okay, so let me show you the name. So here the name you have given is to do, right? So you can just do $request arrow and the name. Okay, so that is to do. So when you do this, now if I refresh, you can see I get my to do. Perfect. Okay, so instead of doing $post, I'm going to use $request. Okay, so that is the Laravel way of doing it. So once I have that, now the next thing, let's save it inside to do title. Okay, so let's call it title instead of to do title. Okay, so the title is request to do. Okay, in fact this doesn't look good, so let's rename it as title. Okay, so let this be title, and let's come over here and let's call this also as title. Okay, so I'm storing the title inside a variable called title. Okay, now let's see how to store this inside our database. Okay, now for that it is very simple. You just have to do you get the to do. Okay, so I get the to do, and there is a property called create. Okay, and this create method accepts an array, and inside this you will have uh, the columns. Okay, so the columns are title. Okay, and I think that is it, because the other thing has a default value, so I can say sorry, title. That's it. Okay, so that is our to do, right? So let's refresh it, and I have added it. Okay, so now you can see it is giving me another error, and the error is that mass the add title to fillable property to allow mass assignment. Okay, so this is another security measure that is there in Laravel. Okay, now there are many ways to avoid this, or if you want it, you can just go to the models and open the model. We have not yet seen what is inside this model. Okay, so basically you can see the model is completely empty. There is nothing right now, so we can just go to the model and say sorry, protected and dollar fillable. Okay, so I just have to say there is a property called fillable, and this is a security measure inside Laravel that whenever you try to send any request or update any request, or you insert any request, that particular column name should be there inside this, then only it will be updated. Okay, so let's add title inside this, right? So now if this is not there, we will get this kind of an error. Okay, so let's do this, and now let's refresh and see if everything works. You get a blank screen, that means it must have worked. Let's refresh, and you can see I got I did get an entry, but there is no value. Let's see what went wrong. So fillable title, and let's come over here, and so let's do a DD and see what is exactly happening. So let's do a refresh. Yeah, so something went wrong. The title itself, yeah, exactly. So we have changed the name, right? So we have to do the form submission again. Okay, because we changed the to do name from here. It was previously to do, right? So now we have to go back and do a refresh, and let's add the first entry. Let's let it be testing. Okay, and click save, and that should work, right? So let's refresh, and there it goes, right? So we have created the new row, which is called testing, and by default the status is pending, and you can see these two timestamps that is added. So that is added by Laravel automatically, so you have not done anything, so it is being handled by the framework. Okay, now you have seen already the problem with the current script. There is no validation, right? So the validation is a very important part of Laravel. So you can see when the thing was empty, it still entered the data. So we don't want such things to happen, right? So what we would like to do is, before going ahead and doing this, okay, so let me replace this with this. Okay, so instead of using a variable name, let's forget about that. Okay, and let's come over here. Okay, so now if it comes over here, it will enter the data. Okay, it will add the to do. But what I want is, before this happens, I want to do some validation. Okay, so let's see how to do that. So that can be done from the request object only. So that's why this request is very important. So you can see there is a function called validate. Okay, so here all you have to do is pass an array of rules. Okay, so let me show you how. So you're going to select which property you want to validate. So I want to validate title, right? So I want to check if the title is, first of all, so you can pass any rules. So the complete list of rules is available on the Laravel website. So let me show you the rules. So let me search for validation. Okay, so you can see if I go down, so you can check out the documentation for how the validation works. But if you go down a little, you will find a complete list. Yeah, so here it is. So this is the complete list of various validations that you can do. Okay, so let's do required, right? So I want the required rule. So let's go over there. Yeah, so I want it to be required. So I want it to be required. Then let's see what else I can add. So there are many things out there, but let's see what else can we add. So I can do min. Okay, so let's do min. Let's see what is min. Okay, so basically it is minimum value, right? So min colon value. So I can specify what should be the minimum value or minimum string size that you should enter. Okay, so let's try that. So let's add min of at least 5 characters they have to enter. Okay, so this is the two validation that I am going to do, right? Now if the validation fails, it is going to go back and give you an error, right? So it is going to go back to the place where it came from, and it will give you some errors. So let me show you. Let me go back up, and they have provided with a small code snippet which we can use to display the errors. Okay, so you can see this is a small snippet that they have provided. So let me copy this and come to our add to do page, and let's come to this particular form and paste this code snippet over here. Okay, so basically what this is saying is, if there is any error, then display all the errors one by one. Okay, so let's see how this is going to be done. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, let's try to submit an empty I think, can I submit empty? Yeah, so let me remove this required from the input type text so that I can submit empty fields. Okay, so let's refresh, and now let's submit empty fields. Okay, so if I submit that, you can see I'm getting an error, which is, it is saying the title field is required, right? So now the position, I am not liking it, so let's take it out from here. Sorry, let's take this if from here and put it after the h1 tag. Okay, so let us put it over here, and let's refresh. Yeah, and let's submit. Perfect, so the title field is required. Next, let's add 2 characters instead of 5. So you remember we have put minimum 5 characters, right? Let's submit, and you can see the title must be at least 5 characters. Okay, now when it is coming back, you can see there is an option in Laravel that you can populate whatever you have entered before. Okay, so let me show you how. So you can do value, and you can do old, and the name of the field. The field is title, so you can just say old title. So let's see what happens now. So if I refresh, and now let's submit SD, and if there is an error, just see what happens. So that field is still there. Okay, so that is very important. So you can use this old field to populate the old entry. Okay, so this is very important when the form is very big and you want whenever there is an error, you don't want everything to go away, right? So you can just correct the error. Now you can add a few more characters and click save, and that works. Okay, now the problem here is that it is showing me the blank page. Okay, so it should that is because we have not completed the code, right? So it is entering the data, but after that we are not telling it what to do next, right? So let's see how to handle this. Okay, now to handle that, you can simply say you can do return. Okay, and you can call the function called redirect, and here you can say back, and you can say width, and this width is like you are setting a session data with, say, success and a message new to do added to database. Okay, so basically what I've done is I'm telling it to go I'm telling it to redirect, and redirect to where? Back. Okay, so from wherever it came, go back over there with some data. Okay, so with the data, and what is that data? So you are sending this data and inside the variable called success. Okay, so this is the session variable where you will get the data. Okay, so now let's see what happens. So if I refresh, it goes back to the form from where it came, but it is not showing any success message, right? That is because we have to write the code for that. Okay, so it is coming, but you cannot see the error, right? So let me show you how to handle that. So let's go to the search and say sessions. Okay, so let's handle that, and this is how you can access these sessions. Let me show you. So there is this methods that are available, and there is also this particular what do you say, global function that you can use to get the values of the session. Okay, so here if you go down, there is a function called session has. Okay, so you can use this to check if the particular variable is set or not. Okay, so let's try that. So let me just duplicate this code again. So instead of checking for errors, I'm going to check for se session. So session has, so this is the condition, And so I'm just checking if there is a variable called success inside our uh, session, right? If there is, then I'm going to show it, right? So let me see how to show that. So let me call it, and let me say I don't want a for each over here. So, and I don't want a ul also. I will just display this. So let's say session, and the name of the variable is success. Okay, so let's see if that works. Let's refresh and let's add some data. Click save. Perfect. I'm getting the message new to do added to database, right? Now obviously that coloring and the styling part we can do, so let's quickly handle that. So you can see we need to have now these are bootstrap classes, but we are not using bootstrap, that's why it is not visible. But we can always go to our css inside our public folder. Let's go, where is the public folder? So here you can go to css and we can open this main.css, and let's go down and handle the alert. Okay, so whenever there is an alert class, I would like to have a padding all around, so top and bottom around 1 em and left and right around 1.5 em. Okay, so let's refresh and click. Yeah, I think it is working. Let's do 2 em and see. Let's, yeah, okay, so that was too much, so let's do 0.5 em. Okay, so let's do a quick refresh and submit. Yeah, perfect. So this is, I think I don't want a padding. I think 0.5 em is fine on all the sides. Okay, so let's refresh again. Yeah, this is fine. Next I want to add colors. So for alert danger, I would like to have a background color of, let's say, let's select some color and then we can change it from here and set it something like this. Okay, let's see if that works. Perfect. Okay, now if you want, you can add a border radius and other things. Let's add that. So border radius of, let's say, 5 pixels. Okay, and let's, by that time we will add the success class and add a green color to that. Perfect. And let's see if everything works. So I have now 2 classes. Press submit, new to do added to the database, and let's submit it blank. So the title field is required. Perfect. So our all our styles and everything is working. I am doing validation also. Perfect. So our controller is working, our store method is working, everything is working perfect. Okay, now let's move ahead, and now we have few more things that are left. Let's go back. So add to do is complete. Now you can see it has created so many content. The UI is not that good because it is now overflowing, so this was not anticipated. Anyway, so now the next thing that I want to do is I want to select this particular element and I want to delete it. Okay, so let's work on the delete first. Okay, so let's do that. Now I am not using any RESTful routes over here, so I am just working on simple method. Okay, so let us see how to handle this. So let's go to index, and now the way it is working is, okay, so let us think a little. So what I want is, instead of doing it like this, so this design or this template was for a pure PHP application, right? So now here I have a better option when I'm doing it with Laravel. So what I'm going to do is, instead of this, I'm going to create another column inside this and call it as action or actions. Okay, and here I'm going to say, I'm going to take this, right? So delete button from here, okay, and remove it from there, and I will come over here and add a new TD, and here I will put this button. So one by one I'm going to put all the buttons over here. So but let's start by add to do button. Okay, so let's refresh it and see what do we get. So you can see you have a delete to do, but I don't want the text, so I will, because then it will become a very big button, right? So I just want this, right? So that's it. Now for easy accessibility, I will just add a title and say delete, so that when I hover over it, I get the message delete. Okay, perfect. So now I have this. Now I don't need the name and the action. That is one thing. Second thing is, instead of a button, I want this to be an anchor tag. Okay, and if I would have used REST, then actually I would use a form to submit this, but I'm not using REST right now. But let's simply create a route for this. So URL, and the URL is going to be, let's now first make the URL. So let's come over here, let's create another method. Okay, and let's see what should we do, right? So now this is a bad idea to do this, but for simplicity I'm just doing this, right? So I'm going to create a delete route. Okay, so a get request to the delete, and inside with this delete I'm going to pass the ID also of the to do which I want to delete. Okay, so for that I'm going to send the ID in, I'm going to use a placeholder over here for the ID, and I'm going to send it to, let's see which function do I have in my controller. So I have show, I have edit, I have update, and I have destroy, right? So perfect, I will send this, and now I will send this destroy, right? Now I can pass this ID directly to my to do like this. Okay, so I can remove this and I can say $ID. Okay, so that is also one option, but there is a better option over here. So that option is, instead of naming this as ID, you can name it as to do. Okay, and when you do this, there is an advantage of doing this. So what it does is, it because you are passing an ID, and at the end you have to do a query to get what is the data stored in that ID, right? So Laravel does all these things for you, so you don't have to query and write a code to get that particular to do from the ID. So when you do pass it like this, okay, so if you give this name and then you accept that over here, it will do the query behind the scenes. Okay, so let me show you what exactly is happening. So let me do a DD and let's do to do. Okay, and show you what exactly is coming back. Okay, so once that is done, let's come over here and let's generate the query. Okay, so now for generating the query, it is delete, and slash, and now here I have to pass the ID of that particular to do. So that I can pass it from to do ID, right? Because I have this variable called to do from this for each loop, which is going to give me my ID. Okay, so if you check the database, you can see the ID column is also there, right? So now if I come over here and if I refresh, and let me show you the link. So the first one, you can see the link of the first one is at the bottom right, you can see it is delete/1. The second one is delete/2. The third one is delete/3, right? So like this, all the links are there. Now if I click on any one of them, let's come down and click on this one. So let's click over there. You can see what is exactly happening. So it has queried the database and also got you the data. So you can see the data of that particular to do. So now only thing you have to do in your to do controller is you just call to do dot delete. That's it, and that particular row will be deleted. Okay, now once obviously you delete the things, now you have to go back, right? So I will just call this particular function and go back. Okay, so redirect back with success, and we will send a message selected to do deleted. Okay, so I will send this message, and now let us see whether it works, right? So let us refresh, and it works, but let's see. Let's delete this message, this particular to do. Click, and it went. Can you see that particular data? So this blank one, let's delete that. Gone, right? But unfortunately I'm not able to see the message, success message. That is because if you remember, we have added the success message over here, right? So we can take this entire code, the success and the error, because it is possible that if there is any error, that also we can show, right? Let's copy both of them, come to index, and let's now select where we want to put this. So let's select after this status message. Okay, so let's paste it over there, and now let us try it once more. Let's click on delete. Perfect. So selected to do deleted. So let's refresh, say delete one more. Perfect. So now the things, that is the delete to do, is working, right? Now let's handle the other two, that is mark complete and mark pending. Okay, so for that, again I will just take these two buttons from here, remove it from here, and come over here and paste inside this section, right? Save it, and let's refresh, and you can see I have those buttons here, right? But I don't want the names inside them. So first of all, let me remove this. I don't want this anymore. I don't want this anymore, and I don't want the text. I don't want the text also from here. Let's save it. Let's refresh. Much better. So you can see I have a thumbs up and thumbs down. Thumbs up for now. There is no title, so let's add a title. So first of all, let's make all these things as anchor tags and not buttons. Okay, then I can add let's add a title. Okay, so the first title is complete, and let's make this pending. Okay, so if I now refresh, I should get complete, pending, delete. Perfect. So now let's give the links to this. Okay, so links will be somewhat similar to this. So let's copy this from here, paste and paste. Now instead of deleting it, I'm going to say we are going to create two new routes. So one will be for complete and one will be for pending. So these routes I have not yet created, so let's go to the web and create those two routes. So this will be, let's say, complete, and this will be for pending. Okay, now obviously it has to go to some particular method, right? So right now we don't have any methods for marking it complete and marking it pending, right? So what we can do is we can create some methods. So let's call this as complete and call this as pending. So these methods are not yet there, so we are going to create them. Let's come to a controller and let's take this method, duplicate it, okay, and let's call this as complete and let's call this as pending. Okay, so you can see what I've done. I'm using the same technique that I used with the delete. So I'm going to pass the ID. So similarly I'm going to get the entire to do from here. Okay, so once I get that, now what I have to do next? Okay, so everything here is perfect. So let's also at the same time write the documentation so that because later on it will be very difficult to write the documentation. So let's do that also. So mark to do complete and mark to do pending. Okay, that's it. So now let's see how to do this. Okay, so right now the delete code is itself working over here, so we don't want to delete it, but instead I will take the status. Okay, so I will take the status and put 1. Okay, so for complete the status should be 1, right? Now if I do this and then if I save it and if I try, it will not work. Okay, the reason is whenever you change any particular variable inside your database ORM, okay, so this is the database ORM. So whenever you change any particular property, then you have to do save. Okay, so this command has to be run so that that particular changes that you have done is committed to the database. Okay, so once you do that, now you can redirect back with some message. So let's say to do marked complete. That's it. Okay, so I have said the to do marked complete, done. Similarly I will take this entire code from here and paste it over here, and instead of status as 1 I will make the status as 0 and save, and then I will redirect to do marked pending. Okay, that's it. So I've done that. Now let's go back, refresh, and let's mark. So this first one is already marked complete, so let's mark it incomplete or pending, right? So perfect, right? Now let's mark this testing as complete. So perfect, everything works, right? Now you can see this particular radio buttons that are there, so now we don't need those buttons, so let's change that. So let's come over here, and this was the radio button, right? So instead of this I can actually just simply print out the IDs of the to-dos, right? So to do ID, right? So that will be, I think, yeah, perfect. So it is showing the IDs now. Okay, perfect. So now all the functions are working except the edit to do. So let's see how to handle the edit button. Okay, now again it is I will take that button from there and come over here. Just before the delete, I will add that button, change the button to anchor tags. Okay, then remove this name and action values, I don't want them. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I want to send this to another page. Okay, so let me show you. Now this is going to be slightly different, so let's see how to handle it. Okay, so let's take the link, href link. Okay, so let's call the URL as edit. Okay, and the URL is edit, and I'm passing the ID, to do ID, which I want to edit. Okay, and I don't want the text, so I will remove the text, and I think that is it. Yeah, I also want to add a title so that people can see. Okay, so let's refresh and see what is happening. Perfect. So I have an edit button also now. So if I click on this button, it should go to the edit page. You can see in the bottom there is a the edit links are changing for each to do's, right? So if I click over here right now, it is not going to work. Okay, so because 404 not found, because that route we have not yet defined, right? So let's define that route. So get edit, and it goes to the to do controller, but let's see which function, right? So now you can see there is a function called edit and update. Okay, so edit is the method where the form will be shown, and update is the method where the actual data will be updated. Okay, so let's see how to do it. So here edit, so let's pass the edit over here. So edit function is where the method to do control method which is going to handle this route. Okay, and then let's come over here. So here again you can see I am using the dependency injection, right? So the to do is retrieved for us, right, from the ID automatically. Once I have that, now I can simply edit the to do, right? But before that I have to first create the form through which I'm going to edit it, right? But I don't have that form yet. So let's go to add to do, right, and just save this form itself, because it is going to be the same form. Okay, so let's do edit to do. Okay, and save it, right? So now I have another form called edit to do, and let's come over here and let's return, instead of add to do, let's come over here and return edit to do form. Okay, so that's it. Let's refresh and see. Yeah, so I'm getting okay, so this kind of a problem arises when your main theme is not able to find the style. Okay, so I don't know why it's not finding, but let's solve the problem with the help of a method. So there is a method called assets, I think it is asset, and here you can pass, so I can pass the path over here, and that will generate the asset path for us. Let me see. Yeah, so now it is working. So previously it was not getting the main.css file. Okay, so what that asset command has done, let me show you. So if I do an inspect, and if I go to head, right, you can see here previously it was only css/main.css. okay, now after doing asset, it has generated the entire link. Okay, so that is what the change I have done, right? Now once that is done, now let's come back to our edit to do, right? And now what we can do is we can change the content. So I can say edit to do instead of add to do, right? And the remaining things are fine. There is an error message, there is a success message. Perfect. And here I'm going to remove this from here. I don't want this. Okay, and the URL is fine. Now the address where it is going to be posted is different. Okay, so let's create that address now. So here I'm going to do a post, the same place, same route, but a post request. Okay, so once I do that, and the controller method changes now, instead of edit it will go to update. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so whenever you use the get method, it goes to the edit property, sorry, method, and when you use this particular route, it goes to the update method. Okay, perfect. Now let's handle it over here. So here it's going to be edit, right, slash. Now I want the ID of the to do that is being passed, right? So for that I have to first pass the to do over here, right? So for that I can use an array, comma, and here I can say to do, and here I can say the variable that I want to pass. So the variable that I want to pass is to do. So that to do is coming from here, right? So this to do, I'm passing it to the view. This is the view. So there I'm passing this variable, that is $to do, in the name of $to do. Okay, so let's save it. Let's come over here. Now I will have a variable called $to do over here. Okay, so this is how you can pass the variables between views. Okay, so now I have passed a variable called to do from the controller to this particular view, and now I can access it. Okay, so let's see whether it works, and let's check the form and see I'm getting the to do ID, right? Perfect. And now I want this particular field also to be updated. So instead of value being empty, I'm going to say to do title. Okay, so that will populate it with the current title. Perfect. So you can see the complete title is getting displayed. Now if I want, I can just replace it, shorten it out, and click on save. Okay, now again, one thing to remember is this particular @CSRF is mandatory for any post request in Laravel. Okay, now once that is done, I think everything is done. Now if I click on save, so it should come over here, right, and it should run. So the first this to do is what is the to do that we want to edit. So it is passing, it is getting passed from the URL, right, that we are sending, and from there this request is going to have the variable that is coming from the form, right? So let's see how to handle the update. Now update is slightly different from the others, okay, because we have two things coming in. First is the original data that is there right now in the database, that is inside this variable $to do, right? And this $request is the data that is coming from the from. Okay, so what we have to do is take the data from the request and save it inside this to do, right? So let's see. Now it is very simple. You just have to do and the field is title, right? That is equal to $request title. Okay, so this title is coming from the form. Okay, so let's see. So you can see this form, and this title is coming from the database title. Okay, so I'm just taking the form data and saving inside the title. Okay, now whenever you change anything in the Eloquent ORM, you have to run to do save. Okay, otherwise your data will not be persisted. Okay, and after that you can do you can go back and show a success message. Okay, so you can say selected to do edited. Okay, that's it. So I have done that. Now one more thing is pending, that is validation, that we will do. That is very easy. So let's come back and click on save and see what happens. So selected to do edited. Perfect, everything is working. Now the only problem here is if I do this and click on save, it still works, right? So that particular data is updated, so there is no validation right now. So we have to add validation to the update as well as to the insert. So you know how to do the validation, right? So you just take this, the validation, right, code, and paste it over here, right? The same validation we will be using at both the places. And now if I do the same thing, let's try it out. Let's do save, and it gives you an error, right? So that's it. So we have completed our to do app. So if I add some data and click on save, now it starts working. Now the to do is edited. Let's go back and see. So let's edit this one, the first one. So let's click over here. So let's make it drink milk. Let's go back. Perfect. So that's it. Our complete to do app is working. No, I think one more step is pending, that is this particular step. Okay, so this is still pending. So we have to calculate the status and display the status. Okay, so let's see how we can handle that. Okay, so we are towards the end now. The only part left is the status. So let's see how to handle that. So to handle that, we can actually do it in many different ways, but let's open up the to do model. Okay, so let's open up the to do model, and we are going to add a function over here to calculate the status. Okay, so let's do that. So we have just added a function called calculate status. Now this any business logic, we always add it inside the model and not on the controller. We could have done this easily in the controller also, but any business logic is preferably to be added inside the model. Okay, so now once we have this, now we can run our query. Okay, so now the query is going to be very simple. So we are going to find out how many total items are there and how many items are complete. Okay, so it's very simple. Let's say total. Okay, so let's say total is equal to, so because we are already inside the to do model, so we don't have to do to do, we can directly do dollar this, because we are already inside the same model, right? So we don't have to call the class. So this and here I'm going to say all, or I can say count. Okay, so let's run count and find out what is the count. Okay, so we have done this. Now let's try to find out what is the value of this, right? So let's go to our controller. So once we add a method inside our model, now we want to see it in the view, right? So the way we can pass data inside a view is through the controller, right? So let's go to the method. So it is the index method which is opening that index view, right? So I will go to this particular method, and I'm already calling this to do's, all the to do's. Okay, and I can do one more thing, that is I can call the function over here, right? So let's mark this as static public static function, okay, so that we can call this particular and here I should say self, okay. So whenever I do static I should call self, okay. So self, and I'm just counting. So let's come over here and let's do to do and calculate status, okay. So let's run this and see what is the output that we get. So I get the total record that is there inside our database, that is 6. So that is perfect. So I have the total record. Now let's do another. So let's do complete, okay. So complete is going to be self, and I'm going to count but not yet. So first I'm going to do a query and then I'm going to get the data and then I'm going to count, okay. Or I think I can count directly. So let's try that out. So I have to check the status. If the status is 1, that means complete. I want to filter out these results and then I want to print that, okay. So let's do complete and let's do a refresh. 2 of them are complete, perfect. So now I'm getting total, I'm getting complete. So now obviously pending will be total minus pending, oh sorry, total minus complete, okay. So the pending amount will be the total minus the complete, and finally I would simply let's say return. So I will simply return a string with these variables inside. So I would say total, so these many total and complete and pending, okay. So this is the status message that I'm returning, right? So once this is there, then I can come over here and I can actually run this and I can say status is equal to do calculate status. So this function is going to return that string that is going to be stored over here. Now I want to pass this also inside my view. So for that I will just add a comma and I will say status is equal to dollar status. That's it. So once this is done, I think our view will be getting this variable. Right now I can just come over here in the view, and instead of hard coding this over here, I just have to do an echo and the status. That's it, okay. So let's try it out. If everything works, you can see I'm getting 6 total, 2 complete and 4 pending. Perfect. So now if I try to make something as complete, it should update everywhere, okay. So it is updated here as well as over here. Perfect. Okay, so let's finally do one last check. Let's delete this one. Perfect, that is getting deleted and the message is coming and everything is getting updated properly. I can edit it. Okay, that works. Let's go back. So it was fun and I can add new entries. Let's try that also. Perfect. Let's go back. Yeah, it is there, and it is right now pending. Let's mark it complete, and let's mark this as incomplete, pending. Perfect. So our entire to do app is ready, and it is perfectly secured app because we have tried to use validation and proper routes were defined, and we have taken care of CSRF attacks also. So this was a bit long video, but obviously it takes a little time, more time, to make the same app in Laravel because of all the security concerns that we take care of. Okay, so I hope this video was informative. See you till the next video. Thank you.